Don't miss the inaugural All-American Cup Team Tennis Tournament, presented by Thomas J. Henry, at the Freeman Coliseum in San Antonio, Texas, November 11 through 13. The All-American Cup features 10 top men's U.S. players competing on 2 teams, East versus West, each captained by the greatest tennis doubles team of all time, Mike and Bob Bryan. You don't want to miss this. Brother versus brother, East versus West, best versus best. Tickets on sale now at allamericantenniscup.com.
Pickle, hit the air raid sign. It's time for Monday Morning Fallout. Monday Morning Fallout, of course, when we overreact to the football weekend. Plenty to overreact to in the pentultimate week of the Texas high school football season.
You really like using that word.
Pentultimate.
How many?
Is it pent? I think it's penultimate.
Yeah, it's penultimate. There's no the
Why do I want to say pentultimate?
I think there is a T,
because
but the T
going
is silent.
going from the N sound to the U sound is tough.
Yeah, it's
Anyway.
penultimate.
My 3 big thoughts. Thought number 1: trajectory is not destiny. Going into week 10 of the Texas high school football season, I think we had our eye on a fair number of games, and we had a critical eye on a lot of them, specifically because we wanted to see how these teams would react, and we had kind of opinions on which way they were headed, right? We thought that this was an opportunity to take a look at where these teams were where they were going. Some teams, let's be frank, some teams we had questions about, some teams we didn't. And I think what we learned this past week is that, like, each week is its own week, and each game is its own game, and even each matchup is its own matchup. I think a perfect example of that is what happened in College Station. College Station took on A&M Consolidated, a team they'd never lost to, but was coming off of a really ugly loss to Georgetown, where they fell behind big early and never clawed back in. I mean, tried to claw back, but couldn't do it.
Yeah, Consolidated was 10 in the rankings, too.
And Consolidated was surging.
That win had dropped College Station out of the rankings.
And Consolidated had taken their place. Consolidated was looking the part. All eyes on them. College Station, it was looked like they were going down, right? And then the game opens, and A&M Consolidated races out to a 21-0 lead. And everyone's sitting there going like, yep, that's about right.
Yeah, they're just broken at this point.
At this point, there's just a problem. But lo and behold, College Station roars back.
Knocks off 38 straight points.
38 straight and wins it 38-28. A wild comeback for them, and proof that, like, you are more than just, like, your trajectory is not necessarily your destiny. I'll give you another example, okay? Another example of that would be DeSoto on the other end of this.
Mm-hmm.
DeSoto, riding high, looked very good, and they looked like a team that was going to challenge Duncanville, right? Duncanville. But the question going into that game was, how much has DeSoto closed that gap up front on the fronts? The answer is not enough.
No.
Especially the Duncanville offensive line against the DeSoto defensive line. Duncanville dominated. Okay,
Yeah.
Caden Durham had a fantastic game. They dominated that, right?
That D-line is insanely scary.
Now, I think there's other places where the trajectory more or less held, okay? I think you take a look at the way that Franklin's playing.
Mm-hmm.
They look like a runaway freight train, especially what they did to Cameron Yo. I think you look at the way that Allen is trending, and the trend continued with their second consecutive loss. I think you look at the way Stephenville's playing, and the trajectory continued that way. Now, that's a shocking loss.
I was going to say that one was 50-49. Alvarado won.
A last play loss to China Spring is way different than a 1-point loss to Alvarado. In a game you led 35-7 and led by 21 points in the fourth quarter.
See, that's what I was going to say. I think that's the most shocking. Not the fact the fact that they lost was shocking enough, but the fact that they were up that much at half and lost, that's what's insane.
Well, I mean, I do want to continue moving on, but one note on Stephenville, and I think this is worth bringing up. Okay, one note on Stephenville. Stephenville lost Alvarado, if you didn't know. We've talked about it, that they've been playing with fire all year long, okay? They had a 7-point win over Midlothian Heritage, a 1-point win over Everman. They had a 7-point win over Abilene Wiley, a 1-point win over Wichita Falls Rider, and now they've played back-to-back games decided by a combined 3 points, and they've lost.
Mm-hmm.
Those things tend to even out. Anyway, I just thought that was interesting across the state of Texas when you took a look at the games. You can certainly change your trajectory on a moment's notice, and I think teams like College Station did that.
Mm-hmm.
Thought number one. Thought number two, home needs improvement. One thing I thought was interesting about looking at the college football landscape this week, and I think it's kind of been a running trend, I don't know if home field advantage means as much as it did.
I don't think so.
At least in the past. Because of the 4 FBS teams, in the 5 FBS teams in the state of Texas that had home games this week, they went 1-4. The winner was Houston.
Mm-hmm.
Houston, they
Go
beat
Cougs.
South Florida. They're a lot better than South Florida, but a good win. Also, a Houston team that I think is just rounding into form.
Yep.
Looking pretty
Well,
good.
they need to get it together at the very end of the game. But other
Yeah.
than that, they really did take it to them the whole time.
They were the better team.
Yeah.
They farted around for about
Mm-hmm.
6 minutes in that game, and South Florida looked like they might come back. But
Yeah.
then it was never going to happen. But take a look at the other teams that were all at home that lost. UTEP at home, Middle Tennessee in a late night Saturday night affair. They lose. Texas Tech loses to Baylor and
Pretty
kind
bad.
of comes
Yeah.
out real flat.
Like,
and
really
just
bad.
never was in this game. Rice, good God, Rice.
That was actually shocking.
That is
Like, I
that
don't
is
think that we're
straight
shocked
up-
by like a Rice loss, as bad as that sounds, but like, my God, this time
to lose by
come on.
33 to a team you were 17-point
17-point
favorites
favorites.
over. 17-point favorites, and you were at home, and they just fired their coach.
So bad.
That's a stinky, stinky loss.
Stinky.
And then there's A&M, and A&M loses again at home. Their 4th straight loss total. I believe they've lost back-to-back games at Kyle Field now.
Yep.
Is that right? Lost to
Um,
Mississippi State.
mhm.
That was at home.
Then they went
Is that right?
on the
And then they
road.
lost to South Carolina. That was on the road.
Let me see.
They lost to Alabama at home. Oh, no, that was in Tuscaloosa. Yeah, they lost to Mississippi State at home. So they are... Is that right?
No.
Did they lose at Mississippi State?
Yes, they lost at Mississippi State, at Alabama, and then at South Carolina.
Anyway, so never mind. It's their first home loss. The App State. I'm sorry. They lost to App State too. And we'll talk more about A&M tomorrow when we get to the 5 biggest moments of the college football weekend. But like, there was watching that game when Ole Miss took the lead there in the 3rd quarter. It really did feel like the air came out of that building.
Yeah, and I mean, well, shout out to Connor Wegman because
Uh-huh.
he put up some
Uh-huh.
real impressive numbers, but it just that was it. Like,
No, exactly. All right. Anyway, there's 3 big thoughts. I just thought home field advantage has kind of fallen by the wayside recently. And thought number 3, closing time. It is now week 11 of the Texas high school football
time.
season. And there are, for a number of teams across the state of Texas, and I'll be honest, when you take a look at the slate, it's going to look a little bit thinner, and I think that if this were a week 7 slate, we'd be like, it's a ho-hum week. There's some really good games, but like overall it's much thinner. But what is going to buoy this week, and what I think is going to be a focus this week, is a lot of the games that have obviously massive playoff implications.
I was gonna say this is a take your eye off the ball type of week.
This is a hipster week.
Yep.
Okay.
Because we like those 3rd and 4th seeded games more.
There are 26 games this week. I went through the standings. 26 games this week that are straight up, no frills, no tiebreaker, no nothing. You win, you're going to the playoffs, and you get to play next week. You lose, you're blowing up basketballs.
So we have 26 playoff games this week.
26 playoff games. That's what they are. There are other games that, like, they have obviously huge implications, but you can't call them for sure. Winner gets in, loser goes home.
It's more seeding games.
Because like there could be a 3-way tie or this, that, or the other. There's another game that matters. I'm saying that as far as standalone games that are going to be treated like we're going to treat the games next week, which is if you win, you move on, and if you lose, you go home. There are 26 of them, and that's going to make this particular week of games all the more exciting. 3 helmet stickers. A helmet sticker for Richmond Foster running back Ashton Njoku. 16 carries, 214 yards, and 4 touchdowns rushing for the Foster outstanding running back, Ashton Njoku. A helmet sticker to an old friend.
Yeah.
Kevin Henry Jennings, although I believe he's going by Kevin Jennings now, but that's on me. Kevin Jennings, who stepped in. Preston Stone got hurt in the SMU game against Tulsa, and this game did get a little wobbly there for SMU. They looked like they were in complete command, and in fact, they were up. I want to say they're up 31-13 there with about they're up 24-7 at half. Tulsa closes things, but that's when at halftime, that's when Preston Stone was injured. In the second half, they bring in Kevin Jennings, and he orchestrates a pair of touchdown drives and really kind of handles the game pretty well. It wasn't all sunshine and daffodils. He lost a fumble, right? But I thought for his first true like meaningful action. I thought Kevin Jennings played pretty well.
Well, and it's funny because that's like the difference between like Wegman knew he was going to be the quarterback going into the game. It's always different when you can go out there, get thrown into it, and do well.
Absolutely. And a helmet sticker to Duncanville running back Caden Durham. We mentioned him, but he was the real X factor in Duncanville's big win over DeSoto. He carried the ball 19 times for 309 yards and 5 touchdowns on the ground. He had I want to say in his first 4 carries, he had 2 monster touchdown runs.
Oh yeah, that was one when we were reading the highlights on Bally. The only name we were saying was Caden Durham.
I want to say he had a 92-yard touchdown run, and then he followed it up with an 81-yard or something like that. It was crazy. He's breaking.
And the one, it wasn't like he just missed one and went. No. I'm talking it was diving through all of them, and then he just busted out.
Three teams to watch. How about the Jonesboro Eagles?
Big win over May.
Real big win over May. We talked with Eddie Gallegos on Bally on Friday night, and this obviously means a lot. That's number 4 over number 3, and kind of puts them right back in the driver's seat. Their only loss in the year is to Westbrook, which was the number 2 team in the state. But a great win for Eddie Gallegos and company there, knocking off May. Really impressed by them. Keep an eye on Sam Houston.
The Bearcats. Sam
Houston continues to roll, and they got a really nice win this past week over Tarleton, 40-21, ruining their homecoming. Now, this is it's hard to because Sam Houston's not eligible for the playoff, so it's hard to really measure where they're at right now. But at the same time, they're 5-2, and you want to be trending in the right direction heading into FBS next year. I think that they are trending in the right direction. Mm-hmm. And finally, Prosper. They have now beaten, it's strange to say, they have a 2-game winning streak against Allen.
Yeah.
Which is kind of unfathomable, but a really nice, weird 29-24 win over Allen. And the biggest thing about that is that means they're going to be the number 1 seed out of D1, out of District 5-6A. So Allen is going to go on the road.
Yeah, because Geyer's going D2, right?
And I need to check District 6, but I'm fairly certain that Louisville has locked up the number 1 seed, which means you're going to get Allen and Louisville in the first round.
Oh, man.
On the road at presumably Goldsmith. Yeah,
we don't get by-district games that look like that. Maybe area round, but by-district. Goodness.
Watch this space. But great win for Prosper, who's 8-1. Their one loss in the year is a real competitive loss to Denton Geyer. Mm-hmm. Brandon Schmidt's ball club can go, guys.
Yep.
That seems really impressive. 3 to see. Looking forward to the next week. Cisco and Hawley's probably the big headliner. It's probably the biggest game in the state. It's going to be a top 10 matchup at least. We see when the rankings roll out exactly what these teams are ranked. But keep an eye on Cisco and Hawley. It's a game we kind of had circled, and a real measuring stick for Hawley. Got a nice win, kind of a postponed game to Saturday. They go and they beat Stanford handily. Now they get a chance to host Hawley to round out an unbeaten regular season if they can do it. But Cisco, but that'll be a big game. Houston at SMU. Preston Stone, it sounds like, is injured and pretty severely. It sounds like something like collarbone or something. So maybe Kevin Jennings out there going up against Houston.
I think I will be at that game.
Will they be able to go on the road to Ford and get a win, and what would be an important win in AAC play. Big matchup before they go their separate ways. This is the last conference matchup, at least for a minute.
Yeah, and both of these teams want this one really bad because they're kind of fighting for who's the AAC team of Texas.
Absolutely. And then finally, let's go out west, or I'm sorry, out east rather, to
other way, Clyde.
other way. Kilgore and Tyler Chapel Hill. This game's going to be real tasty. A huge game. The district title in District 9-4A Division 1 is on the line. Chapel Hill's really rallied. Both these teams, I would say, have really rallied from slow starts.
But I mean, Kilgore played what? Carthage and Gilmer?
They played Gilmer and Van. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And or I'm sorry, no. Chapel Hill played Gilmer and Van. Kilgore played
Gilmer
Carthage and Gilmer.
Yeah.
So it's like they both started 0-2, but they've since rattled off 7 straight.
And those are two of the best teams in 4A Division 2.
Absolutely. So now they'll go at it there in Kilgore. It should be a fun matchup out there in East Texas. That's 3 to see. That's Monday Morning Fallout.